Hello and welcome. I'm Liz Booker, literary aviatrix, and I'm excited to talk to the author of a new book, A Case for the Ladies, a Dot and Amelia Mystery, writing under the pen name Maddie Day. Fewer than 10% of pilots and aircraft mechanics are women. These are their stories of tenacity, adventure, and courage. Stories with the power to inspire, heal, and connect. Welcome to the Literary Aviatrix community, where we leverage the power of story to build and celebrate our community and inspire the next generation of aviation. Edith Maxwell, welcome.
Hi.
Well, I'm so excited to talk with you about this book and to hear all about your writing and the collection of work that you have out there in the world. Can you give us a synopsis?
It's 1926 Boston. Amelia Earhart is working at a settlement house in Boston and living in a suburb. She meets Lady P.I. Dot Henderson, who is visiting her Aunt Etta, and Dot is in her mid-20s. Amelia's a little older. She's a little cagey about her age, actually. And they get to work on finding justice for a number of young immigrant women who are being attacked and sometimes murdered in Boston, 1926. That's the gist of it.
Very cool. And the genre that we would call this is a cozy mystery, right?
It's a historical mystery.
A historical mystery.
On the gentler side, but it probably wouldn't be shelved as a cozy exactly. A traditional mystery, historical.
Okay. Well, since you do write cozy mysteries, do you not?
I write contemporary cozy mysteries, yes.
Can you just tell us what that is exactly for those of us who are not mystery experts, including myself?
Absolutely. It's, as with any traditional mystery, cozy mysteries are a subset. So in cozies, there is an amateur sleuth. So it's not a person in general whose job it is to solve a crime. It's not a police officer, an FBI agent, or a PI. And they tend to be community-based. And it's a mystery, so it's a puzzle. The puzzle needs to be solved. There's a dead body, but you actually don't see the violence that made that person dead. Who killed that person? And this protagonist has to have what we call in capitals, the very good reason to go after, like to investigate this. You know, if you found a dead body on the street, you wouldn't lean in and go, ooh, poison? Stab wound? You know, you'd like back away, throw up and call 911, right? So like none of us would do this, but we suspend disbelief. And, but it's really about the community, the protagonist and the core of the cast of core characters, and to bringing justice to the community in the end, by the end of the book. In addition, in cozies, there might be romance, but they close the bedroom door before it gets too exciting.
Okay.
And you might read, she cursed or he swore, but you're not going to read obscenities.
Well,
and you're not going to see the violence.
Yeah. That was a super helpful primer on the very, very distinct subgenre of cozy mysteries. But we are talking about a historical mystery here, which I'm excited to hear about. Yeah. But before we get into the book and the details of the book, I'm so curious about you. What brought you to writing mystery?
Wow. I grew up reading mysteries from my mother's bookshelf. I wrote a lot of fiction as a child, and then I kind of left it behind for journalism and academic writing and eventually software technical writing. But I love reading mysteries, and I like reading mysteries on the gentler end of the spectrum, like the ones I write. Kind of a long story of evolution, but basically I had been playing around with writing a mystery novel. And then I was writing some short stories, and then I got laid off a full-time job in 2008. Okay. And I thought, well, I have all this time. You can't look for a job 8 hours a day. I'd better get back to that novel I started 14 years ago. And anyway, I kind of went from there. Yeah, I left my last day job in 2013, I think it was. And so I'm a full-time writer. I write
That is
murder
fabulous.
fiction full-time.
And when we go to your page on Amazon, I see so many books that are under this pen name, Maddie Day. So first of all, why a pen name? And then second of all, like, how many books have you published?
My name from birth is Edith Maxwell.
Mm-hmm.
I had written three or four books in a local foods mysteries for Kensington Publishing. And I was proposing a new cozy series for them. And my editor at Kensington wanted it, but he wanted me to use a pen name. And I asked my agent, I said, why? Like, people are just starting to get to know Edith Maxwell. Yeah. That was my first series. And my agent said, they probably want you to look like a new author in the bookstores. A new author on Amazon. So because the sales were not spectacular on that first series, and if somebody didn't really like those, then they're not going to pick up a new series by you. So I invented this name. It's not the best name because the URL, in fact, wasn't available, which I should have thought of. But Maddie's very popular. She's my paycheck.
Congratulations. And how many books have you published under that name or period?
Period. I think A Case for the Ladies is number 33.
Whoa.
I think. I'm afraid I have a little tally sheet on my whiteboard here. I'm working on number 37 right now. I'm writing that.
That is an inspiration. When you can't even remember how many books you've published, you've definitely made it as a writer. Congratulations.
I mean, I have contracts for 3 books a year.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh. Well, I can't wait to hear a whole lot more about that when we get more in depth into the writer's discussion. And so what brought you to decide to include our heroine in our community, Amelia Earhart, in your story this time around?
I had created an alternate reality for both my grandmothers as Lady PIs in 1920 Pasadena, California. So they were very different women, tall, short, sophisticated, homey, and I thought they'd be a great pair. So I've written a couple short stories. I've written the first novel with Dot and Ruth. And then I learned that, so I live in a town called Amesbury in the northeast corner of Massachusetts. And I learned that Amelia Earhart had taught English to factory workers in Amesbury in, I think it was 25 or 26. And then I learned that she worked at a settlement house in Boston, and she flew on the weekends. So this is before, she's not even 30. This is before she got famous, before she did her everything that made her much more well-known. And my best friend lives in the same town where Amelia lived with her mother and her sister, Medford. And Jennifer and I took a pilgrimage way up the hill to Brook Street to Amelia's house. And there's a plaque like in the stone wall in front of it. And I thought, obviously, I have to put her in a novel. So I invented Dot's Aunt Etta, who's a Wellesley College professor in Boston, and she's a board member of the settlement house. She's a fictional board member of the real settlement house where Amelia worked. And there's a case of arson, and she invites Dot out east to work on this. And Dot meets Amelia, and they start working together to solve the arson. And that was a short story published in an anthology a couple years ago called Dark Corners. And then I thought, well, I have to write the book. So over about 4 years, pretty much spanning the worst part of the pandemic and stuff, when I was between writing books for my under contract, I started working on this book. And it's had a lot of editing and revision, and I'm just delighted that it's finally out there.
Well, that's so exciting. So I'm going to ask on behalf of my readers, because I know a lot of them ask this question. So is there a lot of flying in this book? Obviously, this is a different focus. So do we get to see Amelia fly?
You do. You get to see her talking about flying and telling Dot she's going down to the airfield in Quincy, which is south of Boston, where she flew out of. Um, and then, and then I, I don't write in Amelia's point of view. Like, I don't write from out of her head. She's just way too well known. I mean, there's a lot about her and there's a lot of dialogue with her. I studied her as much as I could during that era. And I thought, and I already had written that Dot is terrified of flying and she thinks it's crazy what Amelia's doing. And Amelia keeps trying to convince her how brilliant it is. So I have a scene where they were going to take this friend of theirs who's a reporter, Jeanette. Amelia was going to take her up flying because she wanted to write a story about Amelia. And when they go and pick up Jeanette at the train station, she's got a terrible case of vertigo. And she says, I can't go up. But I just heard about this action, this smuggling action, and looking at these bad guys that they're trying to catch down by the docks in Boston. She said, Dot, here's my camera. You have to go up. And Dot's going, like freaking out. So she goes up with Amelia. They fly. She takes the pictures. They get shot at,
That's so great.
I didn't go up in a small antique plane myself. I'm Dot's granddaughter in real life. And it just seemed a little bit, But I have a really good friend who's also a writer who lives nearby. She has her small plane pilot license. She used to fly to work. She flew from the coast up here to an Air Force base where she worked in the Boston suburb.
Yeah.
So she knows all about how the wings go and what they'd be able to see and how it turns, stuff that I had no idea about. And I had her check a few scenes, Janet Johnson. So I hope I got it right, but we do go up flying with Amelia.
Oh, that's so great. That's so great. And so talk a little bit about the research and like the elements of real history about Amelia that you were able to incorporate in this story. You've already mentioned a couple of them, but let's go a little more in depth with that.
Yeah. I mean, I read, what's it called? East to the Dawn by Susan Butler biography. I mean, I was focusing on the early years, but I read about her childhood. She and her sister used to go out and shoot rabbits and stuff. So she knows how to shoot a gun. I learned that she didn't drink alcohol. She was a teetotaler and that she had contracted the 1919 flu when she was working at a hospital where her sister was working in Toronto, and ever after had really bad sinusitis, problems with her sinuses. So I just, I wove in all the bits, the real bits, and then the house, in Medford, and her car, that Goldbug, that Kissel, gorgeous speedster, that's a convertible, and it's bright yellow, and it has these outrigger seats on outside the car, to carry 2 extra passengers.
Yeah.
That's a big part. And the Kinner aircraft that she flew at the time.
That's so good.
So I really tried to bring in all the bits I could that I learned about her. It has to be in the service of the story.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And, she and Dot, they both love wearing trousers and they both like driving fast. And, there were bits of that I could make her have in common with my protagonist.
Well, the thing that struck me as soon as I read the blurb for it was that just thinking about, so I haven't spent a lot of time in Amelia's history yet. I have definitely planned to through this project, but the little bits that I have gleaned along the way from reading other books and then also my own experience of it just resonated. It rang true to me that she would be involved in something like this in caring for this humanitarian crisis that is happening in Boston, that there are, immigrant women being killed. Like that definitely rings true to what I know about her.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, I think I mentioned in an email, I was invited to speak on behalf of our local 99s chapter, the Women Pilots Association chapter at Zonta International. And I knew nothing about Zonta until I had that opportunity to understand, what their dedication to human rights and women's rights and gender equality is. And then to realize that Amelia had been a lifelong supporter of them as well. So there were lots of things that just from the premise of the book rang true to me and made sense. Yeah.
Good. I mean, I also learned that she kept this scrapbook from early on of articles and pieces that she saw about strong women, scientists and doctors and lawyers and women doing interesting work. And, she would talk to girls about it. Oh, and also, of course, in the book is that at the settlement house, she coached the Chinese girls basketball team. I learned, I went, okay, that's going in. And
that's
one of her,
for real. Wow.
They were sixth graders.
Wow.
And she coached that basketball team at the settlement house. So then I had to bring in, one of the girls on the team, and she plays a part, and her little brother gets attacked, and like just different things like that.
Oh, how fun. Well, so you reached out to me and hoping to send me an advanced reader copy. And I, as politely as I could, said, I don't think that I can meet the timeline for this, and do you justice. And I thought I was going to be very, very helpful and offer that up to the book club in the Facebook group. And I was delighted and blown away by the response that you got there. I was like, oh, I didn't know we had so many so many mystery fans. Now that I know it's not a cozy mystery, not surprised that they're fans of Amelia in there. But so you were like, wait a minute, I only have one advanced reader copy. Our number one book club member, Becky Condon, was able to scoop that up. But because I got everybody else's hopes up, I just want to I just want to do a thing really quickly. So I've added all of the names of the other people who responded to the post saying they really want to read that, and I would like to make it up to them for getting their hopes up about it by having a little drawing here. I'm just going to draw a name, and what we're going to do is we're going to send that person a signed copy of the published book. So I'm just reaching in here and I have a name. Let's see who it is. There are 10 names in this jar, which was like, oh my gosh, everybody went. All right. Tara Kendall is the winner. So we'll get her info and send her a signed copy.
Okay.
Sorry about that, ladies, but all good for you. Because obviously you have a bunch of people ready to buy and read this book. So
that's delightful. I don't have the box of books yet, but it's supposed to be here by next Tuesday. So I'll get that out as soon as I can.
That is great. That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about a little more about your writing career. So you have written so many mysteries, and you mentioned that you had this time off kind of forced from being furloughed or whatever from your main job. So how did that flow for you? Did you write one book and find an agent? What resources did you use to learn to write? Tell us about that journey.
Well, in the years before that, so it was actually in the mid 90s that I started to write a novel and a mystery. And when my younger son went off to kindergarten, and he's now 35. So that's how long ago it was. I had a small organic farm at the time, and I didn't finish the book before farming season started up again. And then I got into technical writing. I went to work in the software industry, and I also had an unhappy marriage. So that was difficult. And I had these two boys in elementary school, and so I couldn't figure out how to finish that novel in those tiny bits of time I might have had. But I started writing short stories. And then I learned about Sisters in Crime, which is an international advocacy organization for female crime fiction writers. Hugely supportive, and just, I wouldn't be published if it weren't for Sisters in Crime. And we have a really active New England chapter. So I was writing short stories and kind of studying the craft. And then that led up to getting laid off. So I did write one book. it took me about a year of Fridays because when I got another job, I didn't work on Fridays, and it was 4/5 time. So that was Writing Friday. And then I revised it for about a year. Then I started looking for an agent. And that book, I never did find an agent, but I found a small press willing to publish it. But during that time, when I was looking for a publisher, a New York agent came looking for authors, came to our Sisters in Crime New England chapter and said, I'm looking to work with some authors on cozy mystery proposals. And so I was ready for that. I'd studied how to write a query letter. I had everything in place. I had published short stories. I had a completed manuscript. So I wrote him an email, and he called me a couple days later, and we got a contract for 3 books from Kensington in a couple of weeks.
Oh, that's great.
So I was, it wasn't totally out of the blue because I was ready for that kind of luck. I mean, it's complete luck. That's not usually how people get agents.
Yeah.
And he's still my agent, all these books later.
That's so great. Yeah. And you mentioned earlier that you were writing this one in the crevices between those that you were under contract for. So how does that work? Did you write proposals for these other books that are under contract that are unwritten yet? Like, is that how it works? Or do you just pitch an idea?
In the cozy field, you tend to write a proposal for 3 books. Like you write a detailed synopsis for the first one, and then you give it a little hint about what the second and third books will be. And then once my editor at Kensington started knowing me, sometimes I don't have to propose the next 3. He'll just say, you want to write 3 more books, right? And then my newest series is the C.C. Barton Mysteries, Murder Uncorked, came out in the fall. And my editor said, through my agent, said, we'd like you to write a new series set on the West Coast. And I happen to be a 4th generation Californian on my mother's side. And I said, finally, I can write a book set in my home state.
Excellent.
But typically for cozies, you write, sometimes you don't even have the first book written when you get the contract.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And so you've been doing this for a while now. How do the publishers support you in book promotion? I mean, obviously you're working pretty hard to promote your own stuff. I can see you out there. So what do you get out of the publishers these days for promotion?
Kensington is pretty supportive. More as I've gone along because I sell pretty well. I'm not yet at the point where they're sending me on book tour on their dime, but they do a lot. We have a really good publicist who takes care of my books. But the Dot and Amelia book, A Case for the Ladies, I'm putting that out independently. So yes, I'm doing all the work.
See, that's interesting to hear. So you have an agent, you've published multiple books traditionally, and this one you're doing entirely on your own?
I am. My editor at Kensington declined.
Oh.
We were just going to be putting out Murder Uncorked, and he said we want to focus on that. They do publish historical mysteries, and I hope he'll regret his decision.
We'll help you.
Well, Case for the Ladies history.
Yeah, we will help you to the best of our ability to make him regret that.
yeah, great. So this one I am doing all of it, but I'm kind of used to that because in general, mid-list authors like myself, you do pretty much most of the promotion. I mean, Kensington will put an ad in a puzzle magazine for my cozies, or a tea time magazine,
right?
Because some of my books have recipes in them, and that's kind of the audience that might like a cozy mystery with recipes.
Well, I think it's fabulous that you will also be educating that audience on some more in-depth Amelia history than most people get to hear.
Yeah. I mean, most people, I didn't know anything about her before like the 30s. She started doing her big flights and everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this has
Most
been,
people don't know that any other female aviators exist ever, which is
oh, and
not
that,
true.
Fly Girls and yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Even in that era. I
Yeah.
mean, I have a scene where she's talking about that with Dot, and Dot said, well, how many women pilots are there? And Amelia says, maybe 10.
Oh,
you know,
really? Yeah.
I mean,
At that
I,
time.
I counted them up at the time, but I have her talking about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it happens pretty quickly because it's in 1929 that she and Louise Thaden get together and start the 99s. So yeah,
Yep.
that's so
Yeah.
cool. Well,
Yeah.
Edith, this is so great. Tell me, like, how do you approach your work on a daily basis? Are you up and writing every day? What do you do?
Yeah. I naturally an early riser, so I'm usually up by 5:30. If I sleep past 6, it's sleeping in for me. and and I need kind of an hour or so on the internet to read blogs and kind of see what's happening in the world. And then by 7, I start working
Okay.
every morning. Sometime, often not Sunday. I check in. There's a group, Ramona's Sprint Club. So Ramona de Feliz Long was a fabulous author of fiction, short stories, memoir, and she was an independent editor. And she was like everybody's cheerleader. And she would start this thread every morning, the Sprint thread. And you check in and you maybe say what you're working on, and then you work for an hour.
Oh,
That's
I
a
love
sprint.
that. Okay, I love
So
that.
that's my first writing hour is checking in. And unfortunately, very sadly, Ramona died
Oh.
3 years ago. But a friend of hers has taken over this, and a whole bunch of us check in from all over the world.
Is that something that anybody can access?
Anybody can access it. It's Ramona's Sprint Club. It's a private group, and you just have to ask to belong.
Okay, and that's
Tell
on
them I
Facebook?
sent you.
Is that on Facebook?
Tell them I say on Facebook. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's
Yeah.
so great. Yeah, I'm going to check that out. Totally.
Yeah. Now give my name because that'll, they'll know you're not a troll or whatever.
Not trolling. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so
Yeah.
cool.
So that gives I work all morning usually. I go for a fast walk at around 11, maybe have lunch, and then do other author businessy stuff, write blog posts, do other things in the afternoons.
That's so great.
Yeah.
Well, so what advice do you have for anyone who is trying to figure out their author journey? Like they're just getting started?
Yeah. Write the best book you can write. Like you don't there's no hard rules. You don't have to write every day if that doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
When I was a technical writer, I was writing every day. I was in front of a computer screen all day, and I couldn't write fiction at night.
Mm-hmm.
And I was already leaving the house at 5:30 to avoid traffic, so I couldn't, that wasn't feasible for my life at the time. Now it is, and it works for me to write every day because it keeps the story kind of alive and moving forward. But carve out whatever time you can carve it out. Put it on your calendar. Make it sacred writing time.
Yeah.
And the classic, right? Butt in the chair, fingers on the keyboard. I mean, you can't fix a book you haven't written. You can't sell a book you haven't polished. And then, find your people. So I found Sisters in Crime.
Mm-hmm.
If you write science fiction, if you write historical, if you write nonfiction, memoir, there are groups, and there are lots of online groups. So find your people and learn from them and ask them questions and network. And that's really important. That's my main advice.
We have another author in our group. Her name is Julie Holmes, and she wrote Murder in Plain Sight, Plane. She was an aircraft mechanic, which is a great perspective to have. So that mystery novel definitely includes sort of an aviation environment from a mechanic's perspective. And I know that Sisters in Crime really helped her. She's out on the West Coast. So where can we find you in your book, and how can we help you get the best start to this book since you're all on your own?
Oh, thank you. I'm at edithmaxwell.com, which also includes all of Maddie's books. And people can sign up for my newsletter on the front page of my website. I have a Maddie Day / Edith Maxwell Facebook author page that I love for people to stop by and like it and follow it and comment. particularly comment. I'm a member of the Wicked Authors, wickedauthors.com. We're a blog of 6 New England mystery authors, and we're on there every weekday. And we have guests, and on Wednesdays we have Wicked Wednesday, where we all chime in on the same topic. And I'm also a blogger at Mystery Lover's Kitchen, and that's 12 mystery authors who love cooking. And most of us have recipes in our books, but there's an original recipe every day of the month, and we have guests, and that's really fun. I'm on the 2nd and 4th Fridays, and then the first Sunday of the month we chat around the kitchen table, each on the same topic, and we always welcome guests, and there's giveaways of books and stuff.
Oh, it sounds like a fabulous community. It sounds like, so what I was going to talk about earlier was the community that we have of Aviatrix writers. So in addition to the Aviatrix Book Club Facebook group, we have an Aviatrix writers group of 170 members, which is great. So you'll have to join us there, please. Everybody would love to welcome you into the community. And that's for any woman writing about or whose books feature women in aviation. So whether it's fiction, nonfiction, historical, contemporary, all of the things. And we're there to support each other. And that's part of like what I'm doing here, is trying to put out content that is relevant and helpful, not reinvent all of the content that's out there, but things that are helpful to people in our community, because we have a lot of people who are pilots first or in aviation industry first, and then they come to writing later, just like you did. And so we want to give them the tools and the roadmap to be successful. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. I appreciate it.
That's awesome. I'll be in touch with you also offline, because I'm the wrangler for the Wicked Authors blog in May, which means I have to make sure all the empty spots in our calendar are filled. And we have a couple. We have a genre hopping regular feature. We also have an Ask the Expert regular feature. So I'm going to hit you up.
Ooh, wonderful. I would love it. And we love more exposure to, if somebody likes reading your book, then come on over to my website, because we have over 600 books that feature women in aviation in all genres for all ages. And like I said, historical and contemporary. If you like to read, you will find a book that you like on my website to include yours now.
Yeah, I'm so excited that I found you. I can't remember where I saw the reference, but it was a few months ago. And I thought, the literary aviatrix, I have to contact this person. Like, this is, yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad you did. And I'm so glad the brand is out there so for people like you to find. That's so great.
Absolutely.
Will we get to see more of Amelia in future books?
That's a good question. I am not sure. I'm not currently writing another one with her, but I think there may be demand for that. So,
well, if you need any help, either thinking about ideas for her or thinking about other fun characters from our history, just let me know. You know where to find me.
Will do.
Or you can post in the book club. I guarantee after seeing the response to this book, I guarantee people will be like, "Oh, I have lots of ideas to help you, to inspire you." So
awesome. Thank you.
Well, Edith, thank you so much for bringing your prolific authorship to the topic of our collective history by writing and including Amelia Earhart in your story, and a part of her that we wouldn't normally see in most books. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you so much for inviting me over.
Absolutely.
I love that I've discovered you and the book club and now the writing group. That's fabulous.
Yeah, you're in the club now.
Great. Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening. Check out the Literary Aviatrix website for this and hundreds of other books featuring women in aviation in all genres for all ages. And while you're there, sign up for the Literary Aviatrix newsletter to stay up to date on all of the Aviatrix book news. If you enjoyed this interview on YouTube or podcast, please like, subscribe, and drop a review if the option is available. Just like book reviews, podcast reviews help our stories reach a broader audience. I'd like to thank Michael Wilds of Massive and Crew for his help producing this interview and his support of all things literary aviatrix. Blue skies and happy reading.